Yes, I was triumphant. I left Austin, Texas to start a whole new life in a little corner of Cascade Valley in Washington. I've made a fortune from the kind old Reagan administration, as I got a nice cut from the Contra deal years ago. As if the Contras really got $18 million. Well, I boarded my little plane near my third house in Eugene, and I was flying over Detroit, Oregon, and then good old America struck me down. A bald eagle flew into my propeller. I crashed my damn airplane. Get ready, cause this story, well, I've got some shit to tell you. I obviously survived the airplane crash. I'm not a ghost talking to you. You're not in heaven nor hell. Though maybe life is just heaven itself. This little place in the middle of Oregon, wherever the heaven I am, is so tranquil. It's therapeutic for me. The plane crash, that looked a lot more like hell. You want to see it? Here you go. Yep, there I was. I was in that burning mass of metal, but I made a quick escape without a slice of flesh. A bit of a sore leg, though nothing I can't handle. Don't worry, Smokey, the fire is extinguished. In fact, I saved the flowers that were just right in front of me. You see them? It's as if they saved me from sliding into a tree. If I hit one of those trees head on, I'd be solving a crossword puzzle up above, waiting in line. How I got to this location of tranquility, well, I staggered around for a few hours, heading east, looking for Mount Jefferson as reference, but these trees and cliffs obscure any mountaintop. Time is on my side, and I'm in no hurry to really get anywhere after all. Though, what if I get hungry? All of my snacks were in the plane, and my roasted peanuts are extra roasted. I listened to the calm nature that contrasts with the bustling city streets I was so used to in the city. My scattered brain started to focus on letting the sounds of this forest pass through my body. My concern for survival, non-apparent. I stayed within a 200 square foot proximity of this vast forest with no desire to travel. The thought of grabbing a fish, if need be, out of the river that flowed near me seemed to come as a simple suggestion. Yeah, if I get hungry, I'll just go ahead and grab a fish out of the river. Simple as that. Part of me allowed myself to become the type of person I was becoming. The other half was sober enough to realize the change from who I was originally. I never did take myself as someone to stare at the trunk of trees near a waterfall practically all day long and into the night. But at this point, the full moon had made its way high enough in the starry night sky for me to witness her beauty. But she was still eclipsed by the smallest of branches, as if she was peeking over at me with curiosity for my physical state of being after the crash. A female gaze with a voyeuristic demeanor. I had awoken to the sound of a growling black bear. I wasn't asleep for long, but surely I wasn't sitting here all this time next to a bear's home, was I? The bear must have been only about 40 feet away from me, and was getting closer. What's weird is that I felt so calm, although I did stay motionless, just in case. My weighted eyes and my relaxed mind had me drift into a slumber, along with the bear, my new slumber buddy. I had this peculiar dream. You know those dreams where you feel as though everything makes sense? You know how you got there, you know why you are there, and you know where you are going? Well, I dreamed I was on a boat, heading to a town that looked to be in the Pacific Northwest, though I didn't recognize it from anywhere. The townspeople, they were clearly there, but I couldn't recognize their faces. When I tried to focus on them, they seemed too bright and washed out to really identify who they were. This animalistic fear came over me. The ambiguity of not knowing who I was walking right past just came over me for a brief second. But then that fear was quickly stifled with harmony. I felt happy to be here. And my destination was just across the street. A local diner, a place that has stood its ground for 28 years. I woke up bathed in morning sunlight. However, quite an odd occurrence, I might add. A woman was bathing in the river nearby. She saw me stand up and noticed me noticing her, and she just casually waved. She got out of the water and got dressed delicately, and she took her time, while I looked like a fool standing up and down, acting like I was packing my numerous belongings that I did not really have. I felt if at any point I should reach out to someone, now was the time, and she, the woman that was in the river, will be the first one I tell about me crash landing my airplane, and maybe she can get me in touch with the local authorities in a nearby town, so the plane wreckage can get cleaned up and I can get to the local dealership so I could just drive my ass to Cascade Valley instead of traveling by air at this point. As she was relieved to hear that I was the only one on board the plane and I didn't fly a commercial airliner with passengers into the ground, she suggested she take me to her place. Well, all right. She has a nice comfortable home on a hilltop with 4 beds and 3.5 baths. She also apparently has a bald eagle that stops by the home. I don't really believe it. What was that outside? Well, if she asks how I crashed my airplane, I'll just tell her that a crow the size of a pterodactyl jammed my propeller. The great thing about this woman, whose name is Adeline, that's a pretty name, she doesn't seem to be in a rush to get me out of her home and get my life back on the railroads, which is fine by me. She asked if I was hungry, and I was. She asked if I would like a steak and a whiskey. Oh, Adeline, I'd sell my goddamn soul and kill for a steak and whiskey. She pulled out some steaks that were marinating in all of their juices, garlic and soy. I poured us 2 glasses of whiskey, and I consumed the steak. The medium rare, though still bloody steak, seemed to melt in my mouth, as if it wanted to be eaten. The whiskey went down easy, with a smoky flavor and a little throttle of the afterburners. We talked about life. Her husband passed 4 years ago in that short storm in the desert. She kept the house and truck, all paid off. She got me settled into the bedroom and told me that there was a local clothing shop about 10 miles down the road that I could go to tomorrow. She made a fire downstairs and brewed some coffee where we talked some more. I noticed how genuine her face was as she talked about her life, with the orange glow of the flames from the fireplace casting on her deadpan face. After I asked her why she was in the river bathing earlier, trying to break the serious talk, she told me that her job as a game warden would typically have her around the town of Salem. She also has a girlfriend over there that she likes to stay with too. But that river, where we so happen to meet up at, is a place where she likes to go to get away from it all. I told her, yeah, I'm right there with you. She asked me if I had anybody in my life, and I told her plainly, I've just been too busy. I mentioned that the last lady who liked me was named Rachel Ellsbury of Austin, Texas, who was this 48-year-old woman who sexually assaulted me after I turned her down. But of course, men don't get sexually assaulted, right? So I'm also, Adeline, getting away from it all too. After a few hours went by, we went back upstairs where she showed me a mask. This mask looked to be, well, some type of Halloween mask, but much more expensive and elaborate than something I would just give a little kid for trick-or-treating. In fact, the mask would in no way fit a child's face. It's heavy and made of pure metal. "Why do you have this?" I asked Adeline with a smirk. She said that she's kept it in her possession for a long time and has used it around the office to prank the other game wardens. She's told me that her friends would joke around with her, saying that she should wear it whenever she gets moody so she can cover up her deadpan face. I please her as I don the mask, and she was eager to get me to look in the mirror with it on. I look over to the bedroom mirror, and I just can't stand looking at myself with it on. I hate it. But I felt like this was the reflection of who I truly am. Today I woke up feeling a little groggy, but not too bad. The first thought that crept into my mind was where Adeline put that mask. But I just got myself cleaned up, went downstairs, and decided to brew us some coffee. The weatherman of Salem said tonight's forecast will consist of scattered thunderstorms. Adeline said yesterday we are just about an hour east of Salem, so perhaps I should get into town sooner than later to buy some clothes and maybe get in touch with authorities to explain my situation. Adeline said she will drive me to the nearby town, but asked me if I could steer a boat. She explained the only bridge allowing her access to the small town is closed off due to a 3-day-long construction plan. So I would make my way into the little town on a rib boat that she has reserved. I made my way closer to the town from the lake. This was all too familiar. This was exactly what I dreamt up 2 nights ago. Everything about this town was the same, yet different than from my dream. I didn't really want to look closely at the townspeople, at their faces, because I knew I shouldn't recognize any of them. But I could tell the gas station, the homes, the stores, the lodges near the lake were all real in this small American town. If you think nothing can get to you, you're lying to yourself. It seemed only right I make my way to the diner, for I was starving. A coping method for many, but for me, this was survival. As I was on my 3rd plate of food, this being eggs, toast, and bacon, the rainstorm arrived and the lightning out in the distance must have zapped some of the power being transferred to this small town. I was peering outside the diner window, and I would see the careless townspeople making their way through the rain with some deadpan faces that reminded me of Adeline. The real oddity, however, was my insatiable appetite. I imagined cutting open one of the townspeople and eating them. Of course, this was ludicrous. Stay cool, chill out, I told myself. I smoked some cigarettes to take the edge off of this strange desire, and I playfully bet my prediction with one of the patrons in the diner of the winner of a baseball game being played on the diner television. I won another pack of cigarettes, I bought a pound of coffee and a bottle of clearly overpriced whiskey, but I drank it straight from the neck itself. The longer I sat there, the more I thought about Adeline's mask. I wanted to hold it again. I couldn't bear the sight of my reflection as I wore it, but I wanted it in my possession once more. I didn't feel like getting back on the rib boat to go back to Adeline's house, so I called Adeline and told her I would be staying a few nights in the nearby town in one of the lodges. As I remained in the lodge, I noticed each passing hour I had a growing desire to don the mask again. I was eating the lodge's food more and more. Chicken, fish, bison steak, the bloodier the better, in fact. I felt like a hungry wolf having gone days without a fresh kill. I was getting irritable too. I needed Adeline's mask. After several days, I called her to pick me up as soon as she could. She seemed to understand what my intentions were. Every person I saw, I would want to attack and rip them open like a goddamn werewolf. The rib boat was still docked where I last put it, but Adeline didn't seem to mind as she picked me up in her truck, and we traveled back to her home, driving over the new and improved bridge. Once we got back home, my concern for more food matched my will to hold the mask. So I went straight into Adeline's kitchen and took out some more of the steaks she had in the refrigerator, and instead of cooking them, I just ate them raw, with the blood trickling down my chin and neck. Adeline came into the kitchen and set the mask down on the counter, as if she knew what I longed for. After about a minute of staring at the mask, and as I continued to chew on the bloody steak, she asked the most important question. Who are you going to gather up first? I told her. I made friends with some locals at the diner. Adeline said, everyone in that town recognizes my truck. I'll take you to rent a car. Lower profile. I donned the mask and I returned to the diner. There were a few patrons in there and one employee. One of the drain pipes above the restaurant had gotten clogged up as water spewed over the roof trying to escape, but that would soon be the least of the employees' worries. Once I parked the rented truck, my body was undoubtedly possessed at this point. My memory was saved from viewing what my body did to the people inside. But now that I have woken up, I see the result. I killed them. In my one corner of the world in which I find peace at, the souls vanished from the peaceful bodies that are before me. I stood up, and I saw Adeline bathing in the river just like before. Adeline said calmly, "Come clean yourself off." And we went back to her house. I stayed at Adeline's house for over 2 weeks. I didn't say a word to anyone else, and I could yet leave the premise without the feeling of guilt. Until one night. One night I asked Adeline to come with me to that peaceful corner of the world again. And once we arrived, predators took the remains of the bodies. Nature is running its course, I told Adeline in a cold yet calm voice. Adeline said, with her deadpan face, "It always will."